What's going on, everybody? It's me, it's Obli, and today I'm bringing you an Unholy key, actually. This is Tazavesh Gambit plus 19. Playing Unholy, playing Super Strain with some pets. But this is actually the rank 1 key, rank 1 damage for all Gambit levels, actually. It's pretty sick. So yeah, I'm just kind of testing out the power of Unholy to see if it actually is pretty fucking big, if it's kind of slept on. Because in other keys, it's pretty fucking decent. Like Floodgate, it's not too bad at all. So I was thinking, you know what? It's only a 19. Let's just fuck around with this. Let's see what we get. But we have a pretty decent burst at the start. I mean, we're using a Nether Prism, so we miss out that initial burst by not having like an Araz Forge or anything else. But we do manage to peak to like 44 mil here, and as Unholy, it doesn't just like peak up; it kind of goes up and stays up, which is pretty cool. Now it's starting to drop down a little bit, but the burst lasts a lot longer than the frost burst. That's for sure. Now I am also focusing on gripping shit in, maybe changing targets and things like that now. Trying to slow stuff. Am I running? I'm not running slow D&D, but I should have been. That would have been actually pretty decent to pair up with this because it's quite important on Gambit. For if you're playing Unholy, you're always doing D&Ds. D&Ding very often, and therefore having the slow on it would be pretty decent. But the main benefit of playing Unholy in this key is the fact that when you do that big pull up to the first boss, where all the ads are just making it extremely difficult to be in melee, playing Unholy is nice because you can do damage from range, especially if you're disease build. You don't really need to worry about being in melee to spawn sudden dooms or to get sudden doom procs to spawn your maguses, which is a large portion of your damage. It still is a large portion of your damage with the super strain build, but it's a little bit less so. It's not quite as important. But I didn't. Funny story. Actually, I'll let you into a bit of a secret. I accidentally ran this build. I wanted to try the minion build, and I fucking forgot. So I was using the super strain build here. I didn't realize it wasn't until I looked at the key, or finished the key, looked at the log, and was like, "Damn, that was a lot of damage." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's look at this." I used super strain, but you do lose out on a lot of boss damage by going the super strain way, which you will see. You gain quite a decent amount of consistent sustained AoE burst with loads of targets, but you will see that the boss damage is not great. Also, priority damage isn't great either. So for me here, I'm just thinking, okay, I've slammed into scale binders, the fish sticks, they are going to die in a timely manner. I'm also focusing on getting like these shore runners in and stuff like that. Just thinking to myself, the cleave that you provide as an Unholy DK, you do a lot. You do fucking shitloads. Lots of spread damage, so realistically, there's no real reason to. Alright, I've got to be careful what I say here. There is a reason to switch to the sticks, but it's not so much of a reason as like Frost has got, because Frost has a lot of damage that gets funneled into one target, depending on what the main target is, like the Breath of Cinder Ghost and stuff like that, doing more damage on your main target, Wave of Souls benefit on your main target, Howling Blast damage on your main target. Whereas Unholy, there isn't really any of that unless you choose to switch from Epidemic to Death Coil, which you wouldn't do on pulls like this. That's just absurd. You'd actually probably get the same amount of priority damage just by just epidemicing than you would just sending it on sending a Death Coil on one fish stick when you have like 10 targets, stuff like that. If that makes sense. But I think as well, this is like the third time I've played Unholy at a high key level. And I say that high key level, this is the highest key I've done on Unholy. So I'd say maybe like 16, 17s I've played Unholy as well, but nowhere near to the extent that I've played Frost. So there is a bit of rust. It's not necessarily this is the best gameplay ever. I'm no who's like a big Unholy DK. Vira DK, he's good. Biceps is still playing Unholy, I think, as well. They're good. I know them Unholy, but I certainly know my way around a couple Clawing Shadows. That's for sure. And to be honest, I kind of want to play this as well because I'm getting quite hyped for Midnight. And with the Midnight beta coming out hopefully soon, Unholy is quite on my radar. Now I realised I forgot here. I held onto my Nether Prism stacks. Now, if I did that 1.5 minute burst that you saw when the giant was alive and with my Prism stacks, that would have been, I think, much better here because now, looking at it, I'm going to have to basically save it for the boss. We're not going to do another pull after this. We're just going to take those big guys and take it to the boss. And obviously, like we were saying before, when you do the big guys and take them to the boss, it is proper AIDS. Now, while we're doing that, I am still kind of hitting stuff, dotting things, just because I want those dots to proc my Nether Prisms to fully stack it. Because if I can send a burst at 18 stacks, and why wouldn't I? But here we go. I'm not really doing anything major. Just kind of keeping some buffs rolling. Doing some damage. got a nice Festering Scythe there and put some wounds on those. That set me up quite nicely for this burst here. I'm sat here and I'm thinking, right, we've got everything we need now. We've got all of our cooldowns. We have an 18 Nether Prism stack, and everything was hit with the Festering Scythe prior. So there's some wounds to play with. You can see some of them got even like 5 wounds, but there we go. So Apocalypse into Unholy Assault and Prism into A-Bomb Limb. And then we're going to go and slam. So we do quite a decent amount of damage at the start here. Get another D&D down ASAP so we can start cleaving some more with Clawing Shadows. As soon as these guys come in, do another outbreak to give them the dots, because there's so many targets here. You really want everything dotted up. Now it's kind of sad that I got this debuff. I didn't see I had it, and I almost killed the tank. But yeah, that's kind of the downfall of the DPS from there. We got a fucking fat burst off here, but then afterwards it's going to fall off a little bit. So here I'm just panicking, thinking, where the fuck am I going to get my thing? Everybody else has already got theirs first, so I'm like, okay, I'll go to the console. Why not? But they did it really fast. There's so much shit going on. I kind of wanted to kill these because they're being awful. But they're almost dead, to be honest. So it's not actually the end of the world. I think at 3 targets, it's probably not so worth to do epidemics anymore. But I am also thinking about keeping my death rot up on stuff. So there's a bit of a battle between what's a better DPS cooldown or DPS global to use versus what do I need to use in order to keep my buffs rolling, debuffs rolling, so that I can do more damage in the long run. And that's the argument between 3 targets doing Death Coil versus Epidemic for the actual damaging portion of it. Then you have to kind of think, well, that's right, as long as you are tab targeting between targets and keeping Death Roll and everything. If not, then just send like 2 Death Coils, 1 Epidemic, something like that. Okay, so we've got our next round of burst coming up, and we also have ad spawning at the same time, which is brilliant. So we're going to pop our cooldowns on the ads, because then we get some more Festamite stacks as well from the natural cleave that we get, and then the natural wound generation from our Festering Scythe, from our A-Bomb Limb. All very nice things. But the boss is pretty low, and so far the damage has been pretty decent. But I think if there was a bit some more, if I had some more single target damage, this would be good, because right now it's all just single target damage. Now you have the occasional 1 or 2 ads that will spawn here or there. But they are not, you do need funnel with Unholy DKs. You do need ads to cleave onto to keep your Festamite stacks high, to keep your wounds high, your wound generation, your bursting swords, all of that. You do need stuff on there. So now that there's absolutely nothing, and you're kind of just relying on the execute, this last 20% is going to be a bit of a slugfest. It's going to gruel. And I don't have any more CDs to use either. We are doing Soul Reaper. Soul Reaper is not so important on AoE, but it is quite important on bosses, because it's a single target, or if there's 1 or 2 targets, then Soul Reaper is really good because the cleave from your pets is really nice. You always want to have a reaping buff rolling as you go into an abomination limb, something like that, because that is buffed by reaping. So you definitely want that. Alright, boss is almost dead. Saving our Nether Prism stacks, of course. Why wouldn't we? No reason to press him here. And we'll kill the guy. So there we have it. Not too bad damage, but I think that damage done looks a bit weird there. I don't know why it's gone over, but I think we finished there at 8.5 mil, something like that. And we're competing quite nicely with the Shaman. And I was looking at this and I was thinking, oh man, damage isn't that good. But then Netherrax is literally doing 15 million damage at this point. What? It's nuts. Me and him both finished on rank 1s for the key level. I think I got rank 1 for all key levels as well, even the 20s, because there's only 4 Unholy DKs that have done 20s. So big up those Unholy DKs. Right, we're going to pop now. Main thing is when you're in your Death and Decay and your burst window is you're spending Sudden Doom as soon as you get them, but you're just clawing shadows, man. Just clawing shadows all the time until you just simply cannot anymore. And then that's when you spend your runic power on something else. It's not like Sand Lane where you kind of have to balance it all quite well. This is not really that important to do that. Obviously for resource management and long game, yeah, you do want to weave. You are rewarded for weaving. You get more resources for doing some runic power, some runes. But when you're doing short little bursts like this where they last a minute, not even that, you can just spam away. Just hit whatever the hardest global is in that minute. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Go outside. Right, this bloke dies. Let me move on. I'm getting a cheeky little reaping buff off of the Burly Deckhand because I'm going to Festering Scythe and then Apocalypse. I'll just do a small 45-second burst. The trouble here is that there isn't much Much to do. I should have burst way earlier there. I should have apoc'd way earlier. The trouble is, I was treating Apocalypse like it was Pillar, where I need to have the perfect scenario to press it first, when in reality, you just have to make sure your pet is somewhat close, and you can just press it. It is worth trying to get your cooldowns off as soon as possible, because you always want to align Apocalypse with your Legion of Souls. Because Legion of Souls, aka Abomination Limb, what it is now, it's basically a pet. And anything that increases damage of your pets or your ghouls or anything like that will also increase the damage of Legion of Souls. So you definitely want to have your Command of the Dead buff rolling when you cast Apocalypse. But now we have all of our cooldowns. So I'd have all my cooldowns right now, but it doesn't really matter, I guess, because I'm not going to pop on 3 mobs. But I will pop on all of these mobs. I also have 11 stacks of Nether Prism. I do also have Magar coming up as well. I wonder if I catch that. I don't actually remember. But my pet dies here, which is so shit. My pet was in Dark Transformation as well. I've had to resummon him, and he's definitely not in it anymore. So there's no more wound gen and everything else. Fucking sucks. I complained so much when this happened. I hate that. I hate that. But anyway. Now we kill those. What you can do is when you're spectating to Rotten Touch, and you're on sort of like 3 targets, it is quite good to rotate around your Sudden Doom proc, so you can give the targets Rotten Touch, and then your Scourge Strikes will do more, Vampiric Strikes will do more. I don't think I'm actually running it in this build, but it is something to keep an eye on, because when I was doing Soul Hunters, I do run Rotten Touch on Soul Hunters for the cleaving, and you just kind of cycle through, just putting the debuff on all of them, so that every target takes an additional 60% damage, but also it does keep Death Row up as well, quite naturally. But you see here, we're fresh out of buffs, cooldowns. We are doing tank damage right now. It's super sad, super shit. There is when you don't have anything to cleave onto, you are doing just terrible damage, really. This is the only downfall, I would say. You have to be in a key where there are so much trash that you can easily make up for the fact that there is a little bit of single target. One saving grace is the fact you do get this haste buff, but it's not really that important. Haste is okay on single target as Unholy DK in this build, but realistically crit mastery are the best stats for you, especially in AoE. The value of crit is a lot better in AoE, especially if you are super strain. Okay, so even with my full burst there, like my full 1.5 burst and a Nether Prism, obviously not max stacks, but it is a Nether Prism. We only kind of go from about like 2.5 mil to 3.5 mil, which sucks. Obviously, for every additional target that I can hit with things like my Legion of Souls, it's going to just increase that damage of that button by 100%. So there's that, and then there's the extra wounds, there's the extra Festamite, all of it. But yada yada yada. Now what I could have done is maybe saved my Nether Prism for the execute phase of Time Cap and Hook and Tail, but I think I opted to hold those stacks for the pack afterwards. Unlike Sand Lane, our 45-second burst in Rider is just pathetic. There is none. Like in AoE, it's decent because you unlock some cleave potential, because the ghoul cleaves. You can then cleave the wounds that the ghouls have put on the targets through its cleaving, and then that way you can unlock more Festering Scythe. In Sand Lane, you still get that, but you also get the added benefit of Dark Transformation giving you infinite Vampiric Strikes while it's out. And those themselves do loads of damage, and the buffs you uphold as well. Now, if I had to pick Sand Lane or Rider, I am picking Sand Lane. I do think Sand Lane is better. I actually wish I kind of played Sand Lane in this key, because this key went so well. I was thinking to myself, this would have been a very good opportunity to try Sand Lane. But I think Sand Lane pumps. The only trouble is you need to be in a coordinated group that will allow you to keep your 7 stack up as much as possible, because the more packs you can go into with 7 stacks of Essence, the better. The less you have to upkeep that, the better. Something like this, where there's probably about 3 or 4 moments where it drops and there's nothing you can do about it. So after first boss, after this boss, and then on first boss when it's intermission, that they will definitely drop then. But you could probably, in theory, keep it up. There's no reason why you couldn't keep it up. You definitely could. You just doing no damage when you hit the guy. But yeah, I think Sand Lane is hidden potential, definitely. I enjoy playing it. I think it's good. I think Rider is just too sort of like RNG based, especially when it comes to single target. There's fucking no single target as well. Whereas Sand Lane actually has really decent execute. I need to get like some footage of Sand Lane and put it on the channel and show you guys how it is right now, because I do think it's good. I think the Sims always bait you into thinking that something's like dog shit trash when it's actually not, when you actually play the game. But here we go. Boss is dead now. We have 15 stacks of Nether Prism. We're gonna go into this next pool like a god, but we have substantially dropped DPS after this boss. But it's all right. I'll link the build and everything in the description below and things, so you guys can have it. But this next first pool we're going to do, I'm going to absolutely just rinse the big guy. That was kind of the intention behind holding like Nether Prism stacks. Just kill this Starseer, because the wandering pulsars that he spawns are very deadly. They're very nasty, very mean. So we do Apocalypse first, and then we do our Legion of Souls, and then we do all of our buffs afterwards, and now we can just start cleaving and start giving it. Now we're going to go over to the wandering pulsar. Cleave onto that guy. If I wasn't so trusting that he was going to die really fast, I probably would have dotted him up and things like that. But because I thought, oh, right, I'm in my cooldowns, other people might be in theirs, this is going to die. I don't need to dot it up. That one rune would have been better spent on Clawing Shadows, and that's exactly what I did do. A couple of Death Coils into the Starseer just to kill him quickly, so he doesn't cast another one and warm. But you see, I lost my Death Rot off these guys because I did that Death Coil. I think there is definitely a world where you don't play Death Rot. I can't imagine Death Rot is that important that you could just maybe do Ghoulish Frenzy instead for the extra 5% damage in your burst window. I can imagine that being pretty good. And then it just takes away an element of having to upkeep something. Because Death Rot on Sims would be like, yeah, obviously take me. But then in reality, if you can't keep it up very well, what is the fucking point? Okay. What? Focusing the pulsar as much as I can. And then back in the Starseer. Quickly. Fuck. That's all there. I dropped my Death Rot as well. Hate that shit. But I don't have any burst or anything like that. So the DPS from this specific pack is pretty lackluster. Now I have another pulsar. Didn't actually catch that until now. I'm like, shit. I pop all my cooldowns on it as well. Even my Nether Prism. Thinking about it, maybe Nether Prism, which should have been pushed back. It's so difficult to tell. Unless you've done these keys a million times, you've done all iterations of when to pop things. It is difficult. I mean, this is like my first time doing Gambit as Unholy as well. I'm kind of walk in here, get a rank 1. Cardboard. Right, last pack before the boss. The last boss does really kind of... It's difficult. Difficult to really like gauge it. I should have dipped my toes back into this Death and Decay here, but I did not. I could have bought myself some extra time and not had to then put Death and Decay back down. I was Death Coiling it as well because I wanted to do that priority damage. Now I really want to kill this Starseer. I knew we wouldn't kill it before this one, but ideally we kill it before the next one. Now I didn't have any CDs really, any good ones, so I'm definitely dotting the thing up. And I don't think my monstrosity still had its plague running around it, because your monstrosity, aka when you cast Apocalypse, your ghoul will give everything diseases around you, or it, sorry, give everything around it a virulent plague and refresh it, but then that only lasts like 14 seconds, so it's not super long at all. Okay, got some cooldowns coming up here, but the ads will be alive at the same time, which is great for us. So let's get that all out. And I realise I haven't pressed my Unholy Soul. Fucking, what are you doing, you absolute moron? Yeah, that's super shit. If I'd have done that, easily 14, 15 mil. Fucking hell. Hello, hello. My mic's wire actually broke when I was recording this at this point. So I'm just re-recording it. But I have no idea what I was saying before. I'm here now and we're chatting. Anyways, this the DPS in this boss would have been a little bit better, I think. I mean, I complain about the DPS it's not doing. It still fucking pumps, and this is still like a rank 1 pass. So it's still like I was comparing this with some Frost Logs. I think you could definitely there are definitely some dungeons where Unholy stands its ground. I think I've said this from quite a while. I think ages ago I made a +13 key quite early in the season, and I was saying, can Unholy keep up with Frost in the meta? And it definitely can. I think there's different damage profiles, but every class has specific damage profiles that they can adhere to. Every spec has different things that they're good at and that they're not so good at. But I think if you're looking at just pure single target damage, Unholy wouldn't even be that bad. It's just because we have to run a build that isn't necessarily that good. And right now, I'm running a build that is definitely not good on single target damage. I think if I was to give this another shot and play on Commander, things would be a little bit different. But anyway, here you can see, because we're phasing, I'm actually going to hold my bigger cooldowns. I'm going to hold my A-Bomb Limb. I'm going to hold my Unholy Assault. I'm a little bit Unholy Assault-y about the fact that I didn't press my button at the start. Fucking salty about that. But I want to make sure that I have Bloodlust and everything rolling. I should have tried to keep up my Death Rot as well, which I didn't do. Now you'll see here, look where I'm stood. Look where I'm stood. This is my spot. Alright, now remember that for later on, okay? That's my spot. Anyway, now we have 14 stacks of Nether Prism. We have Bloodlust rolling. Just going to wait for Apocalypse to come back. Spawn that first because it's a long buff. So that's what gets done first. Then do my Unholy Assault, my Trinket, and then do my Legion of Souls afterwards. Now, Legion of Souls is the shortest buff out of the lot. So I want to do that last, realistically. So I can make sure that it's fully buffed, everything about it. In AoE, it's even more important to do that part of the opener. It's more important to open that way. But we still had a pretty decent burst there. Could have been better. But 6 mil is alright at the moment. You can't really compete with Shamans at the moment. You have to nerf Shamans. We must band together and do something to get Shamans nerfed as soon as possible. Because this guy, I don't know who he is, but he keeps beating me in every key that he just seems to be in the same one as me. And what a guy. What a bloke. Anyway, now I try and run back to the place that I went to before, and who the fuck is dead there? Druid. Then I try and run somewhere else, and then I realise, holy, there's no one here. And I saw my Risen Mage, and I thought that they were there. I thought that Risen Mage was a player. So I tried to go to my spot, see the Druid is there, fucking, they're there, run away, can't adapt, almost die. My ghoul, I should really have taken a closer look at that mage and seen how undead he was and realised that that's not a player. Anyway, doesn't matter. At least no one actually died. But now we've got full buff again, full burst, and the boss is about to be under 35%, so we have an execute buff. Execute buff and Sand Lane is a lot more important. I think Sand Lane is pretty goated, to be honest. I can't remember if I've already spoken about it or not in the voiceover, but yeah, I like Sand Lane a lot. I do think that there's some potential for Sand Lane. I want to give it a better go, but Sand Lane has some really decent boss damage and very decent execute damage as well, so if there's anything that can take advantage of that, then that is worth having a look into, definitely. I think Unholy is definitely a little bit slept on. I think the overarching theme or the overarching meta is just that Frost is the way forward because it's so easy, because the damage is so upfront and everyone can pick it up. Because things like this happen where you forget to do your Death Coil and then your Death Rot drops off. But I would say, even though Unholy is kind of simpler in rotation, where you don't really care too much about what button you press, honestly, as long as you just keep yourself above 2 wounds, then you're fucking fine. Whereas Frost is kind of just, oh, this shines up, let's spam that. I would say if whichever one is the harder spec, I would say it probably would be Unholy, just because there's so much going on. But anyway, we still managed to pull our weight, I'd say, on a boss fight like that, and we finished at a respectable 9.7 mil. I looked at that and I thought, let's pause it here so you can see the damage breakdown. I looked at that and I thought to myself, wow, I'm doing such bad damage compared to everybody else. Then I realised actually both of us got rank 1 in this, so what the fuck. Anyways, this is the damage breakdown. I think with Commander, obviously, things like Mages of the Dead would be more... I can't remember if White Mane is buffed by Commander. I don't think it is. Legion of the Souls would be more things like that. I think it probably would just be those two. Other than that, the pets aren't doing tons, but Mages of the Dead just supplies such a heavy amount of damage up front that it's always worth having a look into. But Super Strain, giving everything an additional 6% damage, is nothing to shy away from. Definitely good. But yeah, Super Strain is definitely what you would pick for dungeons with loads of just constant targets, whereas I would say Commander is something that's a little bit better for smaller mob counts. But yeah, thanks very much for joining me on this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to stay up to date with my DK content, then subscribe, like the video if you want to help me out, and if you're interested in coaching or my week auras, both of those links are in my description. Thanks so much, everybody. I love you so much, and you're all very attractive, and I bet you smell very nice. I'll catch you in a bit. Bye.